I couldn't play with toy guns outside. When you're told as a child, a cop will kill you and say they thought the toy was a gun. It's like as a kid you go, wait, but I'm a kid. It's clearly a water gun.
The battles that were fought in the 1960s, of course, you weren't born then. What were you told about that struggle by your mother and by your father when you were growing up?
It was real life. It wasn't like you could go on your smartphone and look at pictures from 1960s and go, wow, what was that like? They were living it. They were fighting. They were, you know, going to school, traveling. My pops was in the Navy. My mom moved to New York City, and they went after it. They took a swing at life. In the middle of all of that, they knew there was more. There was more for them. And, it was just hard to see. It was hard for them to watch all the turmoil. It was very, very, it definitely does something to a person. And they realized it gave them also, it gave them wisdom. So teaching me and my brother about life, they had all the information because they saw how bad it could be. They saw things opening up. They saw opportunities. They saw, I couldn't play with and my mom's side, I couldn't play with toy guns outside. When you're told as a child, a cop will kill you and say they thought the toy was a gun. It's like as a kid you go, wait, but I'm a kid. It's clearly a water gun. And then you see things like Tamir Rice that happened a few years ago, where this kid is walking around with a BB gun or whatever. He's a kid, and he doesn't, he's not trying to harm the police officer. So then you realize that thing has been happening before I was born and still happening now. So what they've been through is just, they were there to teach me and my brother what to be careful of.
How did they teach you about your relationship with America? Because America is so much about the flag and honoring the flag. But how can you feel a part of an America that denies you so many of your fundamental rights?
I mean, at the same time, I didn't expect to be born into a perfect world either. I learned quickly that, it's real out here from a small child. So the things that came with it, that part of it is like was happening before I didn't take it on as a task. I didn't take it on as my job to fix when I was a kid. I was like, we're all going through this together. I worried about more fun things. I was more concerned with things that were fun. I just thought that the world is just a crazy place. So, you got to go on with life too,
Do you think there was a lasting trauma for your parents that was inbuilt into them because of what they saw and what they went through? The reason I ask that question is because, of course, in Fight of the Century, you have so many great contributors. One of them is Bonnie Greer, the author and activist who says that she couldn't listen to Dr. Martin Luther King's voice for 50 years after his assassination. She just couldn't hear his voice anymore. Was there a trauma, do you think, that your parents went through and lived with for their lives?
We all experience what we experience and go through what we go through, and we take some of it with us. So, coming from the South, those two, my mom from North Carolina, my father from Mississippi, they saw another level of it. I grew up in New York. I was born in New York. So they saw another level of it from another time. So I'm sure. But no, they were more about us being great, us being unstoppable. They wanted me and my brother to be unstoppable in life. They wanted us to find careers. They wanted us to find things that we loved. They wanted us to enjoy life. So, no, not that I know of.
So then, what did they tell you about racism? Because on one hand, quite rightly, they're saying to you to be powerful, to achieve. And my gosh, you have achieved. But what about the barriers? What did they tell you about the barriers that you would face because of your color?
Well, they, things like because you're darker, you got to work harder because there's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of things in your way from you achieving the things that you're qualified to achieve. There'll be things that it'll be in your way. There'll things that slow down your process. So it was like, just know that it's not going to be easy, but that's what gives you heart and character and makes you strong. It makes you strong. So I was kind of like, that's all I needed to know.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.